Hey everyone, this is Rahul with the Alternative Investors Hangout. Today we have a special guest. He's actually a returning guest. He is Aaron Krowne at ML Implode. Thanks for coming on again, Aaron.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, I wanted to look at what's going on in Europe. I mean, central banks, or there was a leak report saying that central banks are going to print all this monopoly money if the markets tank because of Greece. So how do you see, let's say, the markets playing out, let's say, within the next few days because of a potential Greek commie coming into power?
Well, who can say on just such a short time span? I think anyone that says they can predict that kind of time span is, they're full of it. But it is certainly a chaotic situation over there, and it just seems like from one day to the next, it shifts from one country to the other, and of course they're all interlinked, and of course, Greece is moving back into the spotlight with the election on the 17th. I've heard that some brokers are even suspending trading through that time period of a day or more because they're concerned about the volatility. So really anything could happen. I mean, I absolutely think that's the case. I mean, this is why I'm not a trader. I'm a saver in gold and silver, and that's what I advocate because it is a insurance against a system falling apart in times like this, and then even in regular times, it should be the primary vehicle of saving, in my opinion.
So with that in mind, the Greek election, we have, I believe, Bernanke speaking, I think, on the 19th, or there may be an FOMC meeting. So do you see, let's say, QE3 announced next week, or they're going to continue Operation Twist, or you may see more money printing maybe a few months from now? What's your take on that?
I think they'll stop short of anything that would be clearly branded QE3. Zero Hedge had pointed out recently that they had actually done more than they had projected as their nominal goal for Operation Twist. Essentially, they did an Operation Twist 1.5, which was beyond the goal. So the Fed actually continued their easing stealthily, and they're generally kind of sneaky in what they do. They want to do a different sort of program that is supportive of the market and looks supportive without looking like they're going at full bore and full throttle. So, and I agree with what my colleague over at the Wall Street Examiner, Lee Adler, says, that they'll probably extend their mortgage purchase program because that market is just, that will just fall apart if they don't do anything. Now, all that said, if the equity markets tank, it is absolutely within the realm of likelihood that the Fed will come out and do something that is considered, big guns.
Speaking of the Fed and maybe all this money printing, so where do you see the price of gold and silver in the short run? Because, we all know that it's manipulated and it's been trading in a sideways pattern for quite a while, and we've seen all these smackdowns. But do you see, let's say, gold and silver going up probably within the next few weeks because of all this volatility, or it's just going to still trade sideways because of all the takedowns by, let's say, J.P. Morgan Company?
Right. Well, I think they've tried to take down gold and silver, and it's kind of getting increasingly difficult for them because there's just so much physical demand. So I don't foresee them getting knocked down too much more, except maybe if there's an extreme market event, then they might briefly spike down, but they'll probably recover pretty quickly. So I foresee them holding around current levels for a while, a few weeks, maybe a few months. But just breaking out sooner or later because there's just too many forces of instability that are positive for them, and everyone knows that the fundamentals, the monetary fundamentals for the monetary metals are positive, and they're going to be for the foreseeable future. So, I think that definitely gold and silver are like powder kegs building up force, and I can't tell you if it's going to break out in a few weeks to a few months, and I don't think anyone can, but that is what it looks like to me. I just would not bet on sustained significant downdrafts in price from here.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. But let's just say that the Eurozone implodes. I mean, we have to look at 2008, where we had a strong dollar. The Dixie topped, I think, around 88, 89, and gold was pretty much smashed until you had QE1 announced in 2008, November 2008. So do you think there could be, let's say, maybe a short-term correction if you have the Eurozone, let's say, implode? I mean, sure, the free market would probably make gold and silver go higher, but we have, obviously, a manipulated market. So what's your take on that?
It could happen. Yeah, I don't think it would be as extreme as in 2008 because I think there's just so much more. Everyone saw that, you know, gold and silver came back after that and reached new highs. So I think there's so much more just fundamental physical action moving into them. So I don't see it getting to that extent. But certainly there could be a pullback as various entities liquidate gold and silver. Probably there's more manipulation that would go on in that situation than true liquidation. But sure, it's possible. I don't foresee it being as essentially apocalyptic as people thought it was in 2008.
All right, moving forward, I wanted to talk to you about what's been happening to ML Implode and you personally, and you actually sent me this link, and I actually saw this on a few other sites like marketticker.org and a few others. And basically what happened was Wells Fargo essentially, I believe, closed down your bank account or froze your account. Could you go more into details on what specifically happened, why you think it's happening?
Yeah, what happened, and we have an article on the site, ml-implode.com, one of the top ones under our commentary, which explains it. But it was quite a shock to me. On Monday, I was just doing some normal banking transactions, and this is under the corporation that I formed to originally handle, the financial affairs of the website, and the money was just not moving, and I couldn't access it, and the account history disappeared. And I went into a branch of Wells Fargo to inquire about it, and they didn't know anything, but they eventually pulled up a file that said there was a note on the account that said credit risk, that all transactions had been frozen for credit risk. And I eventually got out of them that it was slated to be closed essentially immediately. I believe today, actually, the account is closed. But I actually I shouldn't have been so surprised, because an affiliate of ours that advertises with us called Rest Report Matters had just had this happen to them, and I found out that similar things have happened to other companies that help homeowners either get their loans modified or otherwise help with the foreclosure process to essentially defend them against the banks. The banks have pulled their accounts. And because of the timing, we believe that first, Rest Report Matters getting their account at Wells Fargo pulled was because a blogger of ours, Martin Andelman, who's very, very prominent and is not financially associated either with me or Rest Report Matters, wrote an article criticizing Wells Fargo after a homeowner was mistakenly foreclosed upon and was driven to suicide, actually, by Wells Fargo. And this is a guy and with a family who had actually tried to pay his mortgage payment at a Wells Fargo branch with a cashier's check, and all had been okay. And then they somehow lost or misdirected the check, and that started a whole foreclosure hell process for him. But Martin Andelman wrote about that on our site and, of course, pulled no punches at Wells Fargo. And soon after that, they started retaliating against, it appears, any accounts that they thought were associated with the site, even though they had no financial connection to Mr. Andelman, the blogger. So, yeah, a few days after it happened to one of our affiliates, it happened to ML Implode's account. So it appears to be essentially a political retaliation for criticism of the bank, which, I think anyone would say was well deserved. But yeah, so that's the most disturbing thing, is that it's not as if someone was just saying bomb your local Wells Fargo branch. They're just being legitimately criticized for their handling of this case. And of course, the way they handled these account closures, at least in ML Implode's case, was just freezing the account with no notice, not really giving a reason. The whole credit risk thing doesn't apply because it's just a regular checking account, so there was no underwriting. So it was obviously, that's the other big tell, is that there's obviously just an excuse that was put down in the system because they wanted to have the account closed. So now we are scrambling to make other arrangements, and anyone listening, if you want to help us out in general or potentially with some sort of legal action back at Wells Fargo for this, there's a donate link on our site and on that particular article about this incident, so please do check it out.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to get into. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends. I was telling him that I interviewed you and told him about the situations you've dealt with in the past regarding, let's say, big companies trying to bully you. So why do you think, like, too big to fail companies have bullied you? Let's say mid-sized companies have bullied you. I mean, your website is pretty amazing. You pretty much show us that there's a lot of corruption going on in the housing industry. So why do you think they do this to you?
Well, there's a general mindset that you can use lawsuits. I mean, I'm used to this happening in the form of what they position as a libel lawsuit. But the idea is you can just file any piece of junk and say whatever you want, and you're going to run the opponent, who's like a blogger or other independent media, into bankruptcy or insolvency, or intimidate them before the issue is heard on the facts and on the merits. So that's called a slap suit. Now, what Wells Fargo has done is not a lawsuit. They just took advantage of their just innate power because we happen to have accounts there still, which was something we were planning on changing. But it's similar in the sense that they know there's really nothing we can do back at them in terms of legally. I mean, we can't really afford to be filing a bunch of lawsuits like they could. So all we have really is publicizing it and showing just how craven they are. So certainly spread the word around, and people need to know what they're doing. And really, this means that if you criticize your bank, say, on your Facebook feed, you could have your accounts frozen. I mean, there's no difference between what happened to us and something like that.
Yeah, I have one of my accounts at a too big to fail account, just in case if I travel. But yeah, I have to watch out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get away from them. It really is. It's going to be something of an inconvenience when we do fix that problem. But and they hold something like 75% or more of the total deposits in the U.S. So it's difficult, but I would say it's worth the effort to move to a local or community bank or credit union.
I would agree with that. And before I let you go, Aaron, how could people, let's say, follow your own work and once again donate to try to help you out?
They can go to ml-implode.com, and pretty much everything is indexed from the main page. And you can follow us on Twitter at the symbol @implodometer, all one word.
Thanks for coming on again, Aaron.
Thanks for having me again.